You see it in Little League, although rules have been put in place when it comes to pitch count. You see it in travel ball. It's not the same old baseball like it used to be. There was Little League, and then there was junior high, and then there was high school. Now today there's Little League, there's junior high, high school, but then there's travel ball, there's American Legion, which has been around, of course, for a long time. But still, there's a lot of baseball to be played, and sometimes your kid might be playing for a travel team and playing for the high school team all at the same time. How do you handle the pitch count there? Pretty tough.
It is difficult, yeah.
So here is what the this is basically what the National Federation has said. They're asking to have this new pitch count regulation put into place nationwide. They want to see that every state plus the District of Columbia is a federation member, and they say with the governance over the largest typically public association, each state except Michigan has its own sports medicine advisory committee, which will likely be involved in the specific number. They haven't named it yet, but there should be a pitch count for high school players. So what should the number be?
Boy, the question to your answer, I do not know. And if anybody knows currently what the regulations are, let's say for high school ball, Legion ball, whatever the standard is in New York, if you could fill us in on that. I want to say it's roughly 120 pitches or something like 8 to 10 innings per week. However, I have seen before situations where it's kind of like when the new week kicks in, the slate is clean. So maybe you have like a 15-year-old pitcher who throws 70 pitches on Thursday. Then he comes in relief on Saturday, and he throws 40 pitches, so he's at 110. Well, I believe the way it works is on Monday, the slate is clean. So if he's started again,
right,
you could have him pitching, a total in that week, 180 to 200 pitches, which I believe is above the limitation. But in some cases, yeah, I do think some of these younger arms are overworked. I don't think every coach does it. I don't think every league does it. But I think it does happen sometimes.
Well, I know these games are 7-inning games in high school, but at the same time, you're getting, this isn't Major League, and it's not elite college ball. So a lot of times you're getting a lot of balls, and you're getting what could be a high pitch count. 150 pitches is not out of the question that a pitcher could throw in 7 innings. So what is too much? But here's where I think it gets even stickier, and that is when you're throwing. It used to be it was a fastball and a changeup, but now you're looking at sliders. You got kids that are trying to learn how to throw the curve ball, and that puts a whole added dimension onto this. And I think you got to wonder why you're seeing all these surgeries that these major league pitchers are going through. Is it because of the way they were throwing them when they were in high school, when they were kids?
I think it's very possible. The other thing is, when you say a kid throws 15, 16, 17-year-old kid throws 150 pitches in a 7-inning game, think about that. In the major leagues, it's unheard of for a pro pitcher to throw 150 pitches.
Yeah.
Like 120 is the max, and actually Max Scherzer threw 119 the other night against the Mets, and they were like, boy, I can't believe Dusty Baker's leaving him in. Usually it's around 100, 110.
Yeah. Another story I got to tell you, this is big news for Americans because we tend to be a little heavier. Andrew, not you.
Me.
You've lost all that weight you gained. But fat people, I want to tell you, there's now a new plane out there that is specifically for you. It's been designed for you. It's the brand new Bombardier CS100. Has a 19-inch wide middle seat to accommodate hefty travelers. I will tell you, when I do my sleep apnea situation, and I go over to the center there over with Dr. Levine over at St. E's, they have very large chairs. I feel like Lily Tomlin sitting in that chair when I sit down. They're very large chairs, and that's to accommodate people. And we're heavier today than we have been in the past. Here's one I want to get on here. Can you take this call for me?
Oh yeah.
So this new passenger plane designed specifically for heavier set travelers will be unveiled to the world this week. Call them right back, giving hope to millions of flyers who struggle to fit into standard aircraft seats. Canadian manufacturer Bombardier will show off its new CS100 plane in a demonstration flight at this week's Farnborough International Air Show in England. It's going to be big. By the way, this is Mike right now calling in. Is that you, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Could you call 736-0186 because I want to talk to you on this baseball thing?
736-0186?
That is correct. I'll wait for your call.
736-0186.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Now, Mike is American Legion. Can tell us a lot about this, and we're going to wait just for a second on his call in. Andrew, he should be calling right in.
That is
Mike Michonne, and Mike, of course, legendary in the American Legion world.
Absolutely. He oversees the annual State Legion tournament, which is held and has been held for several years here at Murnane Field. And he's going to scream at me because I'm going to get this wrong. I believe it's Adrian Post, but it might be. Oh, yeah, AP is Adrian Post. Yeah. So I think it's Adrian Post. But if we can get Mike on with that information, because he's going to know.
Hey, Mike, good morning.
Hey, Bill. How you doing?
I got into this thing because the story just popped up in my feed, and I wasn't able to get in any of the. Oops, we lost him. I might have offended him, to be honest with you. Mike, you got to call right back. I don't know what happened. Anyway, we got into this whole thing on this pitch count. It came across my news feed, and I don't have the numbers to go with it. But we've all seen situations where your kid, or maybe it's whatever, has been asked to pitch and then asked to pitch again. I see it a lot in travel ball where the restrictions aren't there in a lot of the travel ball leagues. And I remember in one case where I actually had to step in and say he's pitched enough because we were in a tournament.
Right.
These tournaments go on all weekend long.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also in junior high, so he was pitching in junior high. So I had to kind of say enough is enough. His arm, I don't think it can handle this at this age. Mike Michonne is on right now. Mike, what do we know? What are the current rules for pitch count, depending on what division or league you're playing in?
Well, the one that I can speak the best towards, obviously, is going to be American Legion, where you have it's more innings than it is pitch count, at least right now. Soon there is already out there a standard that is being promoted that eventually I believe American Legion will adopt. And to Jeff's point, it does deal with the age bracketing of the player and the number of pitches that they can pitch in a certain amount of days. And I can't, off the top of my head, I can't tell you because it's fairly in depth by age.
Yeah.
If you look at American Legion right now, American Legion sets it up by innings. So, you can pitch 12 innings in 3 consecutive calendar days or 4 appearances. So it's, look, one is as a starter and then the other as a reliever, and not that many teams have the luxury of that, but nonetheless, what you have is you've got some restriction. There's a restriction as to theoretically how many innings a player can pitch, but there is no restriction as to how many pitches now pitcher can pitch. And to your point, I've seen games and pitchers pitch upwards into 200 pitches.
Wow.
And I've witnessed that, and it's been something that when a perfect example is, we have our state tournament coming up shortly, on the 26th of July. And all of a sudden, American Legion, actually next week, the districts start, and we're going to go from 7 innings to 9 innings. And just by nature of the beast, you're going to start pushing kids, to higher pitch counts. And, what we try to do, what we always try to do, I've always tried to do, is I've always tried to say, okay, we're going to stick right around 90. And the argument could be made, well, 90 for the freshman in college is not the same as the sophomore in high school. And that's,
right.
I believe, 100% correct. So a lot of it falls on the coach, and where the coach's kind of belief is, so it's not hardcore.
Yeah.
And from person to person. So I think it's really one of those things that you really need to kind of get to that where you're going to say this is how many pitches you're going to pitch. But having said that, where's the official counter going to be? Who's going to keep track of that? It's one thing to say those things. It's another thing altogether. It's like the 30-second, the 30-second, you only got 30 seconds to get out to the mound and get back.
Right.
But who wants to do that? Who's going to say that, one team got a tenth of a second more? I'm being a little facetious here. A tenth of a second more than the other team, and now what do we have? I mean, some of the guidelines that are being put in, I think, are a little.
It's one thing if you're at a major league game where you have 4 umpires on the field, but you're dealing with 2 umps. There's a lot for them to take care of out on a field, let alone adding all this new stuff.
Yeah, and are they going to carry a stopwatch? And they have enough. In theory, they're supposed to have a pitch counter, but now you're going to put a stopwatch in their hand, or are we all going to have to, put a stopwatch up for everybody to look at? It's like it gets a little out of hand. But from a pitching standpoint, I think the injuries that we see are just like you said. I've had players that go to that leave us, that leave Legion. When I say us, I mean Legion.
Yep.
To go play AAU. And one of the big issues that I have found, and I've seen physical damage take place, is the AAU is less structured, and as hard as it is to believe,
than
it is Legion. Where Legion, you're playing, pretty much every day, and everybody's in, some sort of routine and rhythm. And what happens, especially with good young pitchers find themselves on the weekend going out trying to throw the ball as hard as they can throw the ball, because that's what the whole premise is behind AAU. We're going to get a college scholarship at any cost, and throw the ball as hard as you can throw the ball, and nothing takes place after that weekend for the most part. And what happens is the rest of the conditioning part of it, and just kind of general taking care of the arm, just doesn't happen.
Right.
And I've had a player, an outstanding player, that went and did that, and literally they had to mechanically anchor his rotator back to the bone for that reason.
Wow.
They were very promising. Very promising. And listen, injuries can happen to anybody.
Sure.
Anybody can, you can go to all of these, training, and it's great. It's great, but an injury can happen to anybody.
Well, I can't imagine that I'm not the only one here, and whether you're a parent or you're a coach, that you've had a conversation with a coach that say, hey, my kid can't, or coach, listen, I can't really work out hard today. I spent the whole weekend pitching. When you're on a junior high team or an American Legion team or a high school team, it's becoming a bit of a challenge. And you're right, the whole theory on these weekend tournaments when you're playing in these travel leagues is to win. You're going to win that tournament. The restrictions are lower, and then you try to come back home and play within restrictions, and it can be tough.
I kind of disagree with that, Bill, because I don't think there's anything in travel ball that focuses on the winning part of it. And I'm not going to defend American Legion in the sense. I think everything that happens in travel ball ends up being about the individual.
Right.
And
right.
You'd have a hard time convincing me that the team atmosphere in AAU is the first thing.
Well,
it's entirely different.
Well, and listen, I'm not winning is what it's all about. I know it's about so much more, but we're all out there to win, and I understand that. But these, you get on to Cooperstown. I mean, they're I don't know, 20 games going on at once, or huge numbers. These fields, and they're coming from all over the place. It's huge today.
All right. Hey, Bill, I'm stuck in a bad place now. I'd love to continue the conversation, but I've got construction crews screaming at me right now.
We'll get you in studio before the tournament, so Manaski.
Just one quick thing here. This is the standard from the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. A pitcher may pitch a maximum of 12 innings in one day, which is a huge number. But anyway, a pitcher may pitch a maximum of 12 innings in one day, but no more than 18 innings in any 6 consecutive day period. Delivery of one pitch constitutes having pitched an inning. So if you had like a reliever in for 2 or 3 pitches, that's still considered an inning. If he pitches 8 or more innings in a day, he must have 2 nights of rest before he can pitch again. And then the way that the State High School Association does it is any violation of these rules is you have to forfeit the game.
Wow. Listen, I want to talk about this before we leave. The ESPN has a big story out. The testimony and documents alleging Joe Paterno knew about the child abuse with Sandusky in 1976. Knew about this, and it still continued. We'll talk about that when we move on here. Also, next up, Rubino. Keith Rubino is a big Bernie Sanders supporter. What in the hell is he going to do now as Sanders has endorsed Clinton? And Lee Wheel coming up. Quick break. Coming right back at WIBX.